talking about a very important sector that holds like a very prime importance in the growing of the Indian economy, the truck sector.
Nobody remembers their name. And why is that? Everybody calls them by their truck number. आप 2486 truck number के driver बोल रहे हैं ना. It's a thankless job. Nobody kind of talks about it. Recently, the statistics says it's a $400 billion industry, and it's gonna move towards $600 billion. So it's a starking number. In India, particularly, the cost of logistics is very high. It's around 14 to 16% of GDP, as compared to 8 to 10% globally. Every year, we are losing close to $50 billion just because of demand-supply mismatch. His Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his 72nd birthday this year, announced National Logistics Policy, where the idea of the government is to reduce the cost of logistics to single digit, around 7%. The idea behind Trucknetic is to make trucking as seamless as Uber today is doing with cabs. It's India's first digital platform for EV trucks.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Electrifying show. On today's episode, we are talking about a very important sector that plays an important role in the growth of the Indian economy, the trucking sector. When all these sectors are moving towards sustainability, when all these sectors are integrating the goals of net zero into their future roadmaps, how does the trucking industry looks like? What is the sustainability roadmap for this industry? How do we build the ecosystem from our drivers to OEMs to the technologies needed towards this pathway? On today's episode, we speak with Arham, the founder and CEO of Trucknetic. They have recently launched another platform named as EVolev. EVolev is India's first digital platform for EV trucks. And if you like the episode, please do subscribe the Electrifying show. Welcome Arham on the Electrifying show. Arham, like today we are talking about a very important sector of, a sector that holds like a very prime importance in the growing of the Indian economy, the truck sector. So I really want to start with that. Why do you think that this sector needs to be, we need to be actually moving towards sustainability in this sector?
If I take you a couple of steps back, talking about Indian logistics market, and it's an ever-growing market. Recently, the statistics says it's a $400 billion industry, and it's gonna move towards $600 billion. So it's a starking number, and $600 billion is amazing. And out of which 60% is road transportation, and it's ever increasing again. So with the influx of a lot of e-commerce and quick commerce companies coming in. So with that sort of, contribution towards the economy, it's one of the major, strengths and weaknesses of any economy. So in India, particularly, the cost of logistics is very high. It's around 14 to 16% of GDP, as compared to 8 to 10% globally. So there's a huge delta, which is around 6%. Every year, we are losing close to $50 billion just because of demand-supply mismatch. And that's one of the major concerns. Even the government sort of figured it out. And His Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his 72nd birthday this year, announced National Logistics Policy, where the idea of the government is to reduce the cost of logistics to single digit, around 7%. And that's what we have been advocating as well, in Trucknetic. So Trucknetic, we started off, 4 years ago, particularly to solve one problem, which is trucking. And the idea behind Trucknetic is to make trucking as seamless as Uber today is doing with cabs, perhaps, or, how you order food from Zomato and Swiggy. So we have created a platform where anybody can book a truck in less than 30 seconds. We have a network of over 1 million trucks out of 12 million trucks in the country. So that's at the front end. At the back end, we are particularly focusing on increasing the asset utilization of the vehicles, which is as low as 50% today. Out of 12 million trucks today, at any given point of time, you're going to see that the vehicles that are unutilized or, without load is around, more than 50%. So that's what we are trying to do. We are increasing the asset utilization, at the back end, using high-end technology such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, and give that the benefit in terms of the price saving to our end customers, which is the freight. And this way we are able to kind of collaborate with the government of India and trying out to kind of reduce the cost of logistics in India.
So, Aram, I heard this thing that truck drivery is one of the most toughest jobs. Is that true? And with electric coming in, or let's say with zero emission trucking coming in, are the lives of these truck drivers going to transform?
That's a very good question. I think 100%. Today, the truck driver is one of the most impacted individual from all sides of the spectrum. A truck driver doesn't able to make money, because the wages are very low. There's no agreement with the truck owner as well, so they can be fired anytime. They don't get any advantages. Everybody hates them. One of the insights, nobody remembers their name. And why is that? Everybody calls them by their truck number. आप 2486 ट्रक के ट्रक नंबर के ड्राइवर बोल रहे हैं ना. It's a thankless job. Nobody kind of talks about it. And you're very right. I mean, like, people have been now moving from trucking to these companies, Ola and Uber. There's a massive shortage of drivers right now, and it's gonna be an acute shortage going forward if we would not do something about it. And that's the reason, under Trucknetic we started What the Truck, which we sort of mentioned, where we are helping out, truck drivers to kind of 360 degrees. What we are doing is we are helping them out to kind of fight against the misbehavior that happened. We are kind of making as true COVID warriors. Even the government of India sort of not realized that how important their role was in the entire lockdown situation, where they sort of moved their vehicles, have provided us basic supplies from pharma to oxygen cylinders to all those basic things that we required and could enjoy our lockdowns and could kind of stay at home without feeling the need that we don't have things in place. So their role has been neglected. And definitely one of the things that we need to do, I mean, like, definitely we're gonna come towards moving towards EV, how it's gonna be helpful for the truck drivers, but we need to kind of formalize this profession. I think right now it is one of the most unorganized profession. There's a lack of skill training. Today a driver is not able to, like, every driver have a similar cost. You cannot compare X with Y to Z, even if they would have different skill sets, because there's nothing to measure. So that's where I think we need to work towards on multiple aspects. Like in under What the Truck, we are doing that. We are helping to provide truck driver trainings by focusing on, like, for example, we are tying up with Safe Lives Foundation so that they are aware about road safety. We are working with the lots again, which is helping them out for this driver skill training. And now we're going to be partnering with companies like ITWA, All India Transportation Welfare Association, where we're going to be further kind of making them train for different truck types. So that's one thing that needs to be taken care of. Also, I think you have put in the right context to it in terms of currently the long stretches, the kind of the vehicles they are, the cabins that are made is sort of not very comfortable for the truck drivers, even the small vehicles. So with EV new designing coming in, definitely the seating is more ergonomically designed, which is suitable for somebody, because most of the truck drivers do get their posters do get kind of really really hampered because of the kind of position that they just sit in for long hours. So definitely with the new vehicles coming in, those things are also taken into consideration. So for example, in these high loaders which are currently there in commercial vehicle space, so they made the seat very very comfortable, though not more than one people would be able to sit in front, but at least the driver will be conveniently kind of be able to sit. Whereas in other sort of conventional vehicles, you would see it would be 2 to 3 seater even in at the in the front. So it sort of gets sort of very claustrophobic and cluttered as well for them. So that's one. Secondly, the emissions. I mean, like, they are always in that because they never can close it. It's not there are no ACs and stuff on the trucks, right? So every time the windows are open, so the kind of emissions that they are sort of susceptible. I mean, like the emissions that their truck would be doing and other trucks as well. So definitely that would be something that EV vehicles are taking care of. So these are broadly two aspects which probably EV particularly would do it. But I think along with that, we need to kind of formalize the entire driver ecosystem, specifically truck drivers, because there's a lot of people moving towards now cabs because they find it easy. But if you're gonna do that, I'm not sure when we're gonna have self-driving trucks in India. So I think it's gonna autonomous trucks in India. So I think it will gonna take a lot of time. So I think drivers is a key asset, is one of the most important stakeholders in entire logistics ecosystem, and I think it's a high time. And I would request your audience, to kind of also kind of look into it. We want to kind of even lobby to the government that we need to kind of really do something about it. Otherwise, big logistics would not come to the halt, but definitely will be severely impacted by that.
And what do you think is the future of this sector? Because right now, when everything is going towards, when everyone has basically goals like net zero goals, sustainable mobility, sustainable shift. So where is this sector going? And like currently, all the trucks that you have, they are powered on like diesel. So, like when they're, I want to know two things from you. When these vehicles are powered on diesel, is there still a way that you can try to incorporate an element of sustainability into it? And second is, where is the future of what? Where do you see truck netting going in the coming few years? Because every industry, every player has to contribute towards sustainability because there's what we are going.
Correct. It's a beautiful question. Thank you for that. Definitely, I mean, like, there's a lot of scope. So what we do particularly in Trucknetic, with the entire ecosystem that we are building, with the route optimization, making the asset utilization, so majorly one of the particular elements is, return load problem, which sort of causes us to kind of, lose a lot of money, which is around $45 billion every year. And at that point in time, the vehicle is moving but without freight, and that's why the name Trucknetic as well. Trucknetic means truck plus kinetic energy. Truck should always be in motion because that's the nature of the work that can be taken care of. A cab is more about, a car is rather for a personal use and it gives you comfort, but truck is for the movement. So what actually we are doing is we are reducing that deficit, where we're increasing the asset utilization by solving the problem of return load, so which helps us to reduce the wastage of miles without freight. And that's the major component through which we are able to kind of reduce the cost of, reduce the consumption of diesel. Today, vehicular pollution constitutes about 60%. And within the vehicular, pollution ecosystem, 60 to 65% is contributed towards the commercial vehicles. And majorly these are, all different kind of trucks, from small Tata Aces to, trailers. So that's one thing that we are trying to do. Secondly, when it comes to intra-city movements, we have been able to kind of, start off promoting a lot of, CNG fuel trucks. So we have kind of make it a mandate that we would not be working with diesel trucks. So, and, since we have a network, so these fleet owners are sort of, getting the trucks modified. And so they are kind of slowly and gradually moving from diesel to CNG, which is a cleaner form of fuel as compared to diesel. And one of the things which we have recently started is EVolev. EVolev stands for, evolving from the conventional side of the trucks, the ones which are on diesel, to slowly and gradually moving towards the sustainable trucking ecosystem, wherein as of now, it's India's first digital platform for EV trucks. So one of the problems that we have figured out, to make it more sustainable, specifically in trucking, you have to create an ecosystem, and that was missing. We have seen a lot of OEMs coming in who are manufacturing these commercial trucks specific for intra-city use case, the smaller trucks. These are called high loaders, L3 to L5 and few other models. But the idea is, since the market is not ready yet, so they are acting as EVAS players. They're providing their services. Then, the common role of, a OEM, which is a manufacturer, where you just manufacture different kind of models and you sell it. But they have to give you the service as well, because the industry is not ready. So that's why we have hand-holded multiple stakeholders within the EV trucking ecosystem, from OEMs at one side, where we are helping them out to not just only sell their vehicles to small fleet owners, but also leasing their vehicles, at a greater capacity in our ecosystem of work, and also the existing ones which are on ground, increasing their asset utilization. So this way we are helping OEMs specifically in EV commercial truck space. Similarly, the EV SC and EVAS players, we're listing them out onto a platform where they can provide their services in multitudes to the large network. Today we have most of the EV OEMs, even a few bigger OEMs which have started moving towards EV is also trying to participate. So this way we can really spread out the word about commercial vehicles and increase the asset utilization. And the last segment, which is the most important one, is the small fleet owners. So currently the market in India is very unorganized and fragmented. 95% of the fleet owners own less than 3 trucks. So these guys are clueless as of now. What EV trucks would be, what's the future of it, how we're gonna be using it, what kind of driver we're gonna be able to run that. So we also facilitate everything around that. We have a non-profit organization by the name of What the Truck. It's registered as Highway Heroes India Foundation, where we do kind of regular meetups with them. We help them out 360 degrees. So one of the deficits that we are helping out with them is the knowledge. So what we do is we take one OEM together with us and then make them understand everything about EV ecosystem. On the second front, we're helping them out with the financing channel, because there are not a lot of finances available to kind of fund EV vehicles particularly. And the third thing is we are giving them the business. So now they are comfortable, moving from their conventional vehicles slowly, as the EVolev suggests, towards EV ecosystem. And this way, we are able to kind of increase the ecosystem, because ultimately the game, like for example, normal commercial vehicles or normal cab manufacturers, they sell it to the end customer, and for them the end customers are the small fleet owners. So once that cycle sort of stabilizes, then there'll be an influx of the trucking, EV trucks coming into the picture. Also, one of the things that we are doing is, so majorly the demand that is coming for EV trucks is from the B2B big players, like from Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto and stuff like that, whom we are working with as well. But what we are doing is, because in a B2C model, for ad hoc movements, we are working with individuals and small, medium enterprises as well. So now we are focusing on kind of, giving them the trucks as well. So the same truck, which is on road for the B2B movements, in those known operational hours of that B2B, we are placing the same truck to the B2C. And the good thing is that operational cost for an EV vehicle is very low, which goes up to 0.5 to 0.6 rupees per kilometer, as compared to CNG, which is around 1.4, to diesel, which goes up to 3.1 as well. So this way, because the B2C customer might not take it today on the basis of that they have some sort of say in the sustainability side of the things, but the price becomes an advantage for them. So this way we are able to kind of float EVolev into the market. But definitely there are a lot of challenges, not just in EV ecosystem, because right now if we talk about EVolev, majorly most of the trucks which OEMs have manufactured are for the small haul movements, intra-city or between two cities, in a span of 200-300 kilometers, because charging is an issue. Right now they can give you a range of 100 kilometers at max, the best models today available. It can increase up to 200-250 kilometers, but definitely the infrastructure is not ready for EV commercial trucks for long haul, the big fledged ones, because you would require a lot of charging stations. Battery swapping will not be a sort of an option in that case, I believe, because you need to have a lot of corridors, because like for example, if Kanyakumari to Kashmir, it's a fairly large belt, and there's a lot of movement like those. How many times a truck driver has to stop or have to change and swap the batteries? So this will be something that probably we have to think towards. Secondly, I think government is also kind of building some electric lanes, electric highways. But again, that will not be able to kind of get into the the smaller cities, smaller towns, smaller highways. Not like all the highways will be able to kind of go towards that. So things has to be looked from a broader angle. And I'm a big fan of Mr. Nitin Gadkari. So he has recently announced that hydrogen will be the future, specifically in commercial trucks, and I 100% echo with him. So I actually believe that this is a transition phase that we do have. And the best thing about India is we don't need to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't go that ways, right? So it's like 1, 4, 8, 10. So that's how we move and jump. So I particularly believe the transition that's gonna be happening. I think we might just do EV at the site, but at the same time we're gonna be picking up, LNG, liquefied natural gas, which is the preferred choice of fuel for all the heavy duty trucks in countries like China, Japan, and they're really really able to kind of get down their emission levels and stuff like that. So I think that will be something that we'll be able to do. And with and the good thing about LNG and the CNG is that we don't necessarily have to be dependent solely on external countries like Russia, or perhaps Middle East, or Iran and stuff like that. Because apart from definitely I think Reliance is a leader when it comes to procuring the natural gas, but also I mean, like there are options like bio CNG, which can be made from farm produce agricultural waste, stubble, which we call parali, which is a problem. So there are a lot of other things that we can kind of club it. And I think government is doing really well by kind of making it sort of a mandate for the companies to adopt those practices, where they would not be able to avail subsidies even if they wouldn't use, like for example, bio CNG. So those are the things which will gonna help to transition. So I believe from diesel, CNG, LNG, definitely there will be a phase when EV will gonna be tried and tested. But EV again, so I think things would not completely change. Energy is something that the solid fuel side of the things, the conventional, the non-renewable will also be there, but definitely the percentage will gonna kind of change accordingly. So electricity will gonna be a preferred option for maybe some time, but along with it LNG adoption will gonna come in, and hydrogen will gonna start coming into the picture. But ultimately hydrogen is the one that will gonna kind of make the permanent solution for the heavy duty trucking industry. Because think about it, you get water as a byproduct, no emissions. I mean, like zero emissions. And that's where Prime Minister Narendra Modi at COP26, when he announced net zero by 2070. So that's one of the things. And that's why even in the budget 35,000 plus has been allocated towards the national hydrogen mission. And India wants to become the net exporter in next 5 to 10 years. And hydrogen is something that really really would change the economies, not just definitely vehicles is number one, because that kind of not just increases our dependency on other countries for fuel or for crude, but also creates a lot of pollution. So it's a self-sustainable thing if we're going to start doing hydrogen. But apart from that, ammonia, steel, and a lot of other industries which are using different sort of hydrogens right now, from gray, blue, brown. So and I think because of those things which are going on around in the world, and the gas is becoming very expensive after that tiff between Russia and Ukraine, I think sustainable future of hydrogen becomes less costly. And with more coming in, more players coming in, with more funds coming in, more support from the government coming in, I believe it will gonna be transition to hydrogen
And
as
I
a
think
entire
there's
economy.
the deal, because, like, right now, as we were talking about natural gas, because when I talk to these scientists who are working specifically in petroleum, they were also like that we have to reduce the dependency on natural gas as well, because we are importing natural gas. And apart from that, that's why we need to build import substitutes, and all these initiatives talking about farm to fuel, and the one you were talking about, I feel that they will play a very important role. Like, recently Indian Oil actually established one of their first plants, where from Lanzatech actually, which makes ethanol from steel mill emissions. And I think ethanol is again going to be a game changer. So what are your thoughts upon ethanol?
So Lanzatech is a beautiful company based out of America, and we have spoken to them recently as well. So yeah, so the plant has been put up in, I think,
Panipat,
Panipat.
yeah.
Yes. So ethanol is definitely something that will gonna be there for for a long period of time. Again, as I was mentioning before, that nothing will be constant. Energy will always evolve according to more sustainable. So far we could see up to hydrogen, but you never know, right? So ethanol is a product which mixes with gasoline, and it reduces the carbon emission drastically because it functions exactly like gasoline. So the percentage of mix in gasoline with the ethanol was limited to 5% for many years, but then government thought that that's one of the things, because in West, in Europe, US, it's up to 40%, and that's where the government also started ramping up, the percentage mix from 5 to 10 to 20, and then ultimately it'll be 40. So 40% of ethanol blended with gasoline would be a game changer, because it will gonna not just decrease our dependency on the imports of the crude oil, but also the pollution level will drastically go down. So when it comes to ethanol, a basic understanding, there are three kind of ethanols. It's called first generation, second generation, and third generation. First generation is where you use sugarcane as a product, and the byproduct will be molasses and bagasse, which is majorly used to make ethanol. But again, you are somewhere not able to utilize sugarcane to an extent, because otherwise it will gonna give you full sugar. So there the consumption of proper raw material happens, where there's a cost attached to it. The second kind of a what do you call as second generation is particularly cellulose, sawdust, bit of agriculture waste. So that's a second generation, which I believe the Panipat one that we were talking about as well is a second generation, where agriculture waste is utilized to kind of make ethanol. So ultimately it's something that at times go to landfill, farmers burn it as a stubble, and so on and so forth. So that is not sort of providing a lot of value, though people have started using it as a secondary and primary fuel. But the third thing is a game changer, which I believe government hasn't not explored it, but I think it will be a revolution, trapping the industrial gases, vehicular pollution, and then converting into ethanol, because it will be a circular economy. Because think about it, like we were thinking, brainstorming, at our office one day, that think about it, if we can kind of make a device, which is behind a vehicle, where we capture the emission, and with that they'll make the ethanol, and then they again put it back into the fuel tank along with the petrol. So nothing will gonna come out, and also you'll be making your product. So I mean, like, it was like a very rough conversation. I mean, like, just brainstorming on like things can happen, but definitely industrial gases can directly be trapped, and those vehicular pollution can be directly be trapped and then converted into ethanol. So that'll gonna give us a proper circular economy.
Is it happening somewhere in the world right
So
now?
things are started moving in Europe, particularly Germany, I'm aware of. Also in US, I think LNG is also working towards it. But definitely in India, I think we can start doing it again, as we don't need to kind of focus on 1G and then 2G and 3G. We can move from 1G to 3G as well, because that's a big problem. Also, one of the things, I'm like, just for the audience, so recently I spoke to a company based out of Palo Alto, California, and they do have multiple offices in Europe. What they're doing beautifully, which I think one of the things, I think to all the EV players and EV charging station players, they're using hydrogen, as a fuel to provide electricity, rather than just electricity from the grid. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, like, and it can be used because we already have a lot of charging infrastructure over here in the country. If we can use hydrogen as a fuel, rather than taking it from the grid, because one of the things which we have to understand, that electricity is not clean. Electricity comes from thermal coal. So here we are sort of banning coal to get used into industries because of the pollution, and then in the plants we are using coal to kind of produce electricity, and using the same electricity. So we have to make sure that our electricity production is also using sustainable fuels, and this is one of the beautiful use cases of hydrogen.
And what are the challenges? Like, for example, if say India today has to implement a similar system, like I spoke to someone, they were working on smart EV charging infrastructure, but like this hydrogen thing that you told, like it's I didn't like get to hear a lot about this. So, what is stopping us from say implementing it today?
I think one scientific problem that we do face is lack of players in the system and the capital intensive nature of the business. So and the piloting also would require capital. So as government, as private investors, people need to be more sort of uh, they should be more easy on releasing the funds. They should not be very stringent, because they if we would try it out multiple times, we're gonna be able to do it. I mean, like, not everything works in the first go. Innovation will gonna happen once we're gonna be backing it with the capital, backing it with the technology. But it should keep on happening. And definitely, Edison always says that I've failed 10,000 times that most of the people think about, but I believe that I figured out ways that these 10,000 ways doesn't work to make a bulb. So that's what we need to do. We have to keep reiterating, and we need to have those funds. We need to go small but go big. We need to be more future oriented, so we don't need not to think about the short term. If we are able to cater those problems, I think talent, there's no dearth of talent here in India. Economy is at such a growth rate. Everybody has started believing in the country. As a unit within India itself, we do have amazing leader. So it's just about getting out of that sort of a zone and coming together, and I think it's gonna happen.
And there are amazing companies, amazing startups, like so many founders I know, they're working on, like, for example, something like green hydrogen. Someone is setting up a different EV infrastructure, like in a way that's completely powered on, renewable energy.
Right.
And like just before we end, like please explain the part from farm to fuel, what you are doing in that area, and how are you using Trucknetic's logistic network for that.
So farm to fuel is an initiative that we particularly figured out that there are a lot of things. Agriculture particularly contributes around 60% to the GDP, and it will gonna be like that for quite some time. And definitely over the years, the percentage might decrease, but the absolute value will gonna increase. So one of the problems, specifically when it comes to the farmers, is which everybody knows, I think, in India, because it creates a lot of pollution as well as parali, stubble. So that's one of the problems for a farmer, because burning is easy for them, burning is cost effective for them. But one thing, it degrades the quality of the soil as well. But even then, they think that it's a better option. But today, parali's cost is 1.5 rupees per kg. So now they can sell it off. And why is that? Because there's a value to it. You can kind of convert those agricultural waste to different kind of fuels. And that's what farm to fuel initiative is primarily, perhaps, to kind of facilitate that, where Trucknetic plays a key role in entire supply chain management, from collecting it from the farmers, to kind of getting it to the warehouses, getting to from warehouses to directly to the companies we're going to be using as. So before that, so there are multiple use cases of fuel. So agriculture waste can be used to kind of directly use in the boilers to produce steam, which would replace the use of pet cokes and coal and stuff like that. The second use case will be to convert the same biomass, which is agriculture waste, to ethanol. And the third use case will be to make Bio-CNG out of it, which is again something that government has mandated the CGT players, city gas distribution players, to have it in the mix to avail subsidies. So there are multiple use cases. So farm to fresh initiative is particularly out, taking and buying the entire produce from the farmers. Like the waste rather, and then using the supply chain through Trucknetic, to kind of reach it to the end customers who would require directly as a fuel, to the manufacturers who will convert that into Bio-CNG and ethanol. And ethanol one directly goes to these players and petrol pumps, and the Bio-CNG part is directly purchased by, again, these city gas distribution companies, or you can open a pump as well. So it depends upon the customer who would be kind of manufacturing or producing the bio-CNG. So that's the initiative, because I strongly believe that this is here to stay. There's going to be a parallel energy ecosystem which we can thrive. One of the things that nobody talks about is growing energy crops. You can grow energy crops which has a significant GCV, gross caloric value, which would require less amount of what do you call as fertilizers, water. It would be grown in a less area,
And smaller gestation periods.
smaller gestation period, better yield.
Yes.
So I believe farm to fuel is not just restricted to now agriculture waste, but you can specifically work towards. So that's the initiative that we are very very sort of focused on and excited about.
And I think I was reading somewhere that the government's also working on this, like from making farmers the Annadata to Urja Data. And I think that that's the beauty of it, because I think ultimately, as we were earlier talking about, you also have to empower people economically, because you have to empower their pockets, you have to give them a better living condition, something that empowers their lives, and that is only when they'll become the part of the entire bigger ecosystem. But what's interesting to me is, Aram, like, what background do you have? Like, you have, like, some really good amount of knowledge with energy. And not only this, but you're also working on so many different initiatives. So where does this kind of skill set, where does this kind of knowledge comes from?
So I sort of started in actors and all that, did multiple projects. One of the projects really got hit, called Project Naya Ujala. We were the first company at that point in time, like a non-profit, where we started off installing solar water bulbs in the houses of people living in slum areas across the country. We did around 80,000 installations. Unilever North America team came in and made a documentary on us as well. So that's my journey into social entrepreneurship started. We formalized a non-profit organization after my college, where we started thinking of what we can do, like, to really create a bigger impact. And we started off with financial inclusion. And while we were doing financial inclusion, we figured that there are two gaps, social inclusion and financial literacy. People don't know why to open a bank account, and people are not qualified to open a bank account because they lack normal KYC. So we started building an ecosystem. Did that for a year and a half, working alongside with the government. Touched base around 50,000 plus people. But we couldn't continue because Jan Dhan Yojana came in. So we started off this initiative before Jan Dhan Yojana. So I always say that. So sense of pride, but we couldn't do it because there was change of governments and few other things. But I remained in that sector for about 3 to 4 years more. Did fellowships in UK, US, came back in India. Started off operations of a company based out of San Francisco in health tech space. Did that for about a year or so, and then I was finally bored doing social impact sector, because after a point you couldn't kind of get a lot of out of it. And that's why I was lucky to kind of get back into the normal regime investment banking side of the things. Did that for about three and a half years, and then I kind of get out of the that I finally decided I'm gonna quit. Did stints from Stanford, got selected for the entrepreneurship program. Did a year-long design workshop, sort of certification from Stanford Graduate School of Business, and now we have been selected by Stanford Graduate School of Business again for their C transformation program, which is for the class of 2023. 100 odd companies have been selected in Asia for that. So that was it. And when I did my investment banking, I felt the need that I'm ready now, because I have understood the entire ecosystem. And that's where I came into the I actually quit my job because in the family one of the businesses wasn't doing well, and it was in conventional energy. And because the petco got banned at that point in time, and that was the time I have to quit my job, because I need to look into it, because we were fairly doing very well in petcoke, and suddenly it got banned, and majorly the market was Delhi NCR for us and adjoining states, and all of got banned in single day. I still remember Kapil Sibal sort of doing that, but again that was the time I came in. But the time I came in, I started figuring out, petcoke got banned. So what I did was to immediately kind of offset the losses. So I replaced it with the imported coal. But within 6 to 8 months, it hit to me. Today petcoke got banned. Tomorrow coal will also get banned. So I sort of preempted that coal will get banned way back in 2018, December 2019, and it happened this year. I mean, last year itself. I mean, like this year, like a final warning kind of a thing. And that's where I started thinking like how to move towards the sustainable side of the things. And from there, Trucknetic also emerged, because another problem in the energy business was trucking, because it was a trading business and trucking was the major issue. And that's where I started off Trucknetic, and at the back end was always invested into energy.
And when you say that coal got banned, like explain this thing that.
So coal particularly, there are different origins of coal. Indian coal is there, and there's a imported coal which comes from different countries. So the few countries where it's prevalent, Indonesia is one. Majorly, the coal comes from here. Then US, Russia, Colombia, South Africa, Mozambique, and few other areas. So that's the imported side of the coals, which comes on all different ports in the country. Majorly comes on western ports, and within the westerns, Gujarat ports. Navlakhi is one, which is near Morbi city, which is the capital, the largest manufacturer of ceramic industry. Then it comes to Mundra port, Tuna port, and Kandla port, which is like the biggest ports in the country. So when I say coal got banned, so coal definitely, coal creates a lot of pollution, and different kind of coal have different, features in GCVs. Like for example, the petcoke also replaced coal, because petcoke is an industrial product, but petcoke got banned because of the sulfur content. So it produces a lot of sulfur dioxide, when it kind of reacts with the furnace and stuff like that. So few coals have similar feature. For example, in US coal would have high percentage of sulfur in it. Indonesian coal has low, but again, they would create a lot of impact. And because Delhi NCR is so, already kind of, grappling with pollution, and that's the reason government have mandated that we would not be using it and replace completely coal with biomass, which is sort of prevalent now instead of coal, and then slowly and gradually moving towards the what do you call as gas ecosystem. So already there has been a lot of infrastructure, and these gas manufacturers are the CGD ones. So in gas also there are players upstream, midstream, downstream. So city gas distributions are called downstreams, which directly gives to supplies to your houses, which is residential use. Then there's commercial use, which is like office buildings like this, and then there's industrial use, which is directly going to the companies. So that's where the companies wants to move towards now.
And when you say that coal has been banned in Delhi, so like is it all forms of coal or just the imported ones that you're talking about, which have like more content and which is more dangerous?
All kind of coal has been banned.
And today we are not using any coal in Delhi.
That's tricky. People do use it, but I think NGT is kind of making sure that people should not. I think majorly bigger companies have already transitioned. Smaller companies are slowly and gradually doing it. Again, it's not that easy,
And
because
just to
accessibility.
break it down for the audience, like sorry to interrupt you here, where today is being coal used in Delhi NCR, and when we are saying that we have replaced coal with biomass, what is the difference in the emissions when we say that?
The emission drops to around 70 to 80%.
70 to 80%.
Yes, because the GCBs are quite low as well. It's a clean product, if you would use just a biomass, like biomass is nothing but rice husk, chilka of rice, mustard husk, sawdust briquettes, the burada of the wood. That's why Kashipur is one of those areas, because that it's a hub for woods collection. Groundnuts, moofali ka chilka. So all of those things are not polluting and creating a lot of pollution, right? So that is replaced by the conventional fuels, which are fossil in nature, like coal and stuff. So it has already been mandated by Government of India, Government of Delhi, that in Delhi, not just in Delhi, but Delhi NCR, that any form of coal will not be used except the power plants, because power plants require a large consumption of fuel, and right now the availability of everything is not there. I mean, like biomass is not something that we could manufacture, particularly from the bio, and that's where energy crops will gonna come in, because that can be one thing that can be replaced. We can replace the fossil fuel with, or the dependency of crude. So that's what it is happening right now, and definitely around 25% emission is from the industries, because if you would go anywhere across Delhi NCR, you will see industrial hubs all around. I mean, like, we are sitting in Gurgaon to, entire belt to till Jaipur is all industrial areas. Similarly is with Faridabad. Similarly is, that area, Sonipat, Panipat, Karnal, and so on and so forth. So definitely Delhi is sort of at a juxtaposition of all these industrial areas. So, and Delhi's geography is such that the air gets trapped.
Yes.
So with that coming in, I think it's a good move that coal got sort of replaced, and I think once the infrastructure is more ready, once the prices will going to drop down, because gas is very expensive now. It has rapidly sort of ramped up in terms of pricing post that fiasco that happened. So I think slowly and gradually things will gonna be better. But I think it's a great move, because we have to start from somewhere, and I think Delhi is becoming that epitome. I think I actually have to kind of really thank Delhi government as well, apart from central government, because they're really doing amazing work. With their initiative Switch Mobility, something around that as well. The kind of buses that we could see over here in Delhi, and construction getting banned, and all of those things, and the vehicles getting replaced, the diesel vehicles, the older ones, BS6 norms. So things are ramping up, and now the coal and the all those things, I believe now will gonna be able to kind of make, because Delhi is such a beautiful city, and it is known for pollution now across the world. It's not fair with the Delhiites like us, right? Like, we really, really believe in our city. Such a beautiful history. I mean, like, there's a saying that, Delhi reconstructs itself every 100 years. And it's been going from Pandavas' times, and there are multiple rulers coming in, and including Shah Jahan, where Delhi was called Shahjahabad at that point in time. So I think people should know Delhi for the good things: the food, the culture, the history, the government. It's the center of the country. It's the capital. So I think it's a good initiative, and I think it's gonna be really, really impactful, because I could see this will gonna come in, and next would be all these three adjoining states, like how it happened in Petcoke, and definitely slowly and gradually we're gonna replace. I think definitely the environmental minister also sort of kind of said that we want to kind of replace coal from India in next 5 years.
I think, and the beautiful thing is that things have started to move, because a lot of these things we don't get to hear, and that for me, like, is a discovery. What you like mentioned about the coal, I knew that it has done something, but for this mega impact, I didn't know about it. But thank you so much, and thank you, Aram, for doing it. And also, like, because you came into the space, like, you were not motivated by sustainability to start with, but you came into the space and you actually are transforming this industry inside out. So I believe that everyone can do that, and everyone, right now, someone might not be working coldly into sustainability, but if they look forward, they can really go and transform their industries inside out. And you, I think, are a great example for that. And I believe that these entrepreneurs and people like you are going to, like, make India lead towards, our goals. So thank you for being with us today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you, Arham.
Pleasure.